वो है कर दो बंद।
Stuti, Reishta sir has joined, ma.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, Stuti. Yes, Stuti. You can start.
Okay. So, a very good morning to all the dignitaries, guests, and students. Today, I, Stuti Mishra, will be convening today's discussion, and I'm the student convener for today. We at VIT Bhopal believe in empowering a culturally diverse student community to develop technologies that contribute to world and align with nation's developmental goals. This global pandemic has totally redefined our approach as stakeholders in the society and made us think about what new and fresh perspectives we can offer to the society so that we come back stronger from this crisis. And on that note, I welcome you all to today's panel discussion on our shield in COVID times, where we'll enhance our understanding about prevention from COVID and importance of vaccination. Before we dive into panel discussions, I'd request Registrar Sir to address the panel.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I think it's the most opportune time to start our academic activities with a brief explanatory meeting on the COVID times, the protocol that we have to observe during this period. I welcome Mr. Anil Gulati, Communication Specialist, UNICEF, United Nations, and Dr. Puneet Tandon, who have accepted our request to be a part of this session and give their valuable insights on dealing with this crisis that is looming large over all of us. Every day we are more confused than clarified with the messages and the information snippets that we get through WhatsApp, through Instagram, and all other communication media. So we are left wondering what is the situation, and particularly because we are located in a rural environment. We are approximately 65 kilometers from the Bhopal city. So here the picture is much different from you have in any urban or semi-urban setups. Indeed, the situation in the university area has been particularly from the COVID point of view, has not been a matter of concern at all. It has always remained well within the control. So that has been the sort of situation that we have, and all our students as well as faculty members who have been away from the university for quite long would be really interested to know what is the situation here. So this program organized for the purpose of imparting some some authentic knowledge with regard to what is the protocol that is to be observed, considering the situation here. So, In urban surroundings or in metropolis, where many of our students are, the situation is totally different. The picture is totally different. But fortunately for us in Madhya Pradesh, if you see the district-wise tally, most of almost all the districts have new cases adding, which can be counted in the fingers. So, and the overall picture also has also been very, very reassuring. So, looking to that, it is very appropriate that as the university has resumed its on-campus activities, so it would be really, much beneficial for every one of us to hear from the experts as to what is the situation today. I welcome all the students, all faculty members who have logged in, and I also welcome the experts, Dr. Gulati, as well as Dr. Puneet Tandon, who can speak authoritatively on the subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. And let's hear more from our distinguished speakers. The first address is by Dr. Puneet Tandon, who is working as a pathology specialist in Department of Pathology, Gandhi Medical College, Bhopal. He's a trained oncopathologist and has special interest in genitourinary pathology. Besides histopathology, he also looks after the blood bank of GMC. His hobbies include music and long distance running. He believes in the dictum that we never stop learning. Sir, it is an absolute honor and privilege to have you amongst us. I request you to address the audience who is not just listening you here, but also at our Microsoft Teams interface. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You're out.
So good morning, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank VIT Group of Institutes, its management, for giving me this opportunity to interact with you all. I would also like to mention here that it's a pleasure to have Mr. Anil Gulati as a fellow speaker here with me today. Now, today's webinar has been very appropriately titled Our Shield in COVID Times. So during the first wave last year, our shields were primarily social distancing, masks and hand sanitization. Now this year, to this has been added another shield to our armory, that of vaccination. So my focus will be a little bit on vaccination, but a brief overview of the coronavirus will be appropriate. So my presentation will include something about the coronavirus, the symptoms and the mode of spread, then the type of vaccines and how we can protect ourselves, a little bit about our clinical trials, and then some frequently asked questions. So to start with, what is a coronavirus? Well, coronaviruses are a large family of viruses which have been causing illnesses for many years in both animals and humans. They are not something new. So the disease intensity has ranged from the common cold, which we have many a times, we all have had, to the more severe, like the SARS disease, which we had heard a couple of years back, about which we had heard. Now, the most recently discovered coronavirus is a SARS-CoV-2 virus. It is called as a COVID-2 virus because the COVID-1 virus was the SARS virus, the SARS disease. It did not really catch much of our attention, the SARS disease, because the infectivity of the SARS was not as high as that of the SARS-CoV-2 virus or the COVID-19 disease. So this is now the most recently discovered coronavirus, and it causes COVID-19. Now, what is COVID-19? So I would like to draw your attention to the bottom of the slide here, that it's actually an abbreviation, where CO of COVID stands for corona, VI stands for the virus, and D stands for the disease. And since this virus was discovered in the year 2019, it is called as COVID-19. What happened was that in December 2019, a pneumonia emerged in Wuhan, China, and it was associated with a very severe acute respiratory syndrome. Now, what is acute respiratory syndrome? Well, acute respiratory syndrome is actually a culmination of pneumonia. What is a pneumonia? Well, a pneumonia is an inflammatory condition which affects the very small air spaces of our lungs. These very small air spaces, or the distal most air spaces, are called as the alveoli, where the gaseous exchange takes place between the outside air and our body. So all these alveoli, because of the inflammatory condition which is prevalent, they fill the air spaces with secretions and fluids. And as a result, there is no gaseous exchange happening between the lungs and the air. So what happens? That the patient usually presents with coughing, chest pain, fever, and difficulty in breathing. But we are able to carry on, if the symptoms are mild. So with mild pneumonia, some of the alveoli are involved, the rest of the alveoli are not affected, and that is what we are able to move around. And beyond a point, when a large number of alveoli are involved, then that is what it causes difficulty in breathing, and our oxygen concentration, which is noted by the SpO2 levels, which we have all are aware of by now, they start falling. So this is how the disease actually was discovered, and the disease was labeled as COVID-19 by the World Health Organization. Now, this epidemic, it spread rapidly worldwide within 3 months and was characterized as a pandemic by WHO in March 2020. Now, just briefly about that, because we've been talking about this epidemic and pandemic, so it's good to just know a few terms quickly. So an endemic is something which belongs to a particular community or a people or a country. Say, for example, malaria, dengue, infectious diseases, they are endemic in our country. And whenever there is an outbreak, that is a greater than anticipated increase in the number of endemic cases, then it is called as an outbreak. And if an outbreak is not very quickly controlled, it can become an epidemic. So what is an epidemic? An epidemic is a disease which is actually affecting a large number of people within a community, population, or a region. And then after that, we comes to pandemic. So if you remember the P of pandemic, so we can say that if you add a P for passport, so if you add the passport to the epidemic, it becomes a pandemic. So since a large number of countries beyond China became involved with this virus, with COVID-19, it quickly became a pandemic. We are all aware, I will not go into the details, that what are the symptoms: fever, cough, running nose, and sore throat, and less common symptoms, even diarrhea and headache. So these are the symptoms of COVID-19. And we all know by now that how does the disease spread? When the disease can spread from person to person through small droplets from the nose or mouth, which are spread when a person coughs or exhales. And that is why it is more important to stay more than 3 feet away from a person who is sick. We are all aware of all this. Just to bring to your attention that towards the left of the screen, that as you can see, if one person is affected, and if he tries to mask his symptoms and not tell others, or maybe he just becomes very casual, then after a period of 5 days, about 2.5 people are going to be infected. And from this 2.5 people, about 406 people are going to be affected in 30 days. So this is the importance of actually self-isolation and trying to be more sensitive as a citizen that if at all we are not feeling well, then we should stay indoors. If you talk about that, what is a droplet infection? So earlier on, it was very well known that it's a droplet infection. The COVID-19 spreads through droplet, but now it has come to light that now it can even be transmitted through the air. It's an airborne transmission as well. So if we talk about droplet, then coughing and sneezing, it can produce naturally droplets of saliva and mucus. And the droplets of saliva and mucus laced with the viral particles, they can spread and remain suspended in air for some time. With an airborne transmission, even if a person speaks, very small particles are still discharged in the environment, and they will remain suspended for a longer period of time. So say if you are even just talking to someone, if someone is infected and we are not wearing a mask, then even by airborne transmission, we can be infected. Just to bring a comparative analysis, if you look at the bottom of the screen here, then a cross section, this is a cross section of a human hair, and it is about 60 to 120 microns wide. And compare them with the droplets, they are so tiny and more than 5 microns. And here the airborne, when the transmission takes place, these particles are even less than 5 microns. So they remain suspended in air for a longer time. And that is why we always insist on us all to wear masks. Now the point is, can COVID-19 be caught from a person who has no symptoms? So as we all know, I'll just request to mute your mics because we can hear something. So can COVID-19 be caught from a person who has no symptoms? So well, the main way the disease spreads is through respiratory droplets, as we have seen in the previous slide. So it is therefore possible to catch COVID-19 from someone who has, for example, just having a mild illness, just a mild cough, an occasional cough. And this is more so in the early phase when the symptoms are very mild. So even if a person has no symptoms, he can still transmit the virus. And therefore, this is the importance of wearing masks. Who is at risk? Well, we all are aware that patients or persons with pre-existing medical conditions, such as high blood pressure, heart disease, pre-existing lung disease, diabetes, or cancer, they appear to develop more severe illness than others, and therefore they should be taken care of more promptly. These are some of the graphic illustrations of protecting oneself from the virus. I'll just very briefly, in the first picture, you can see we use the hand sanitizer and then rubbing it against the palms, then interlacing the fingers. Then I will request to mute the mic. I can hear someone coughing actually. So then the fingers and the palms are rubbed against each other. The fingers here are interlocked. Then the thumb is being taken care of both the hands. And then the tip of the fingers are being taken care of. The wrist is being taken care of, and then we dry it. So this entire process should take about 15 to 30 seconds. So we should not be very casual about it. I will not go into the details of how to put on a mask, but the most important thing is that before you touch the mask, you clean your hands with a hand rub or a soap. And after we are through with wearing the mask, then we should again perform the hand hygiene process once over again. So now this is the important thing. So what are the COVID-19 vaccines which are available? Well, the most important goal for COVID-19 vaccines is to contribute significantly to the equitable protection and promotion of human well-being among people globally. So equal protection of all, although unfortunately at the moment there is a vaccine disparity where the rich nations have got more coverage of the population, but the ultimate aim should be that it should be an equitable protection of people globally. The vaccines, they are to be used in conjunction with other control measures. It doesn't mean that once we have been vaccinated fully, we stop wearing masks and we just forget the COVID appropriate behavior. And in the longer term, the vaccine is intended to be used for active immunization of people at risk to prevent COVID-19. So what do the vaccines do? So the vaccines, the aim of the vaccine is to expose the body to an antigen or a disease-causing microbe, which will provoke an immune response that can block or kill the virus if the person becomes subsequently infected without causing the disease. So here the word or the term subsequently is very important, because there has been a myth surrounding the vaccination that many people in the villages, they think that once they are vaccinated, there is every possibility that they are going to get the disease. So the thing is that the vaccines will protect us from a subsequent infection. These are the, I'll just briefly go that which are the different vaccines which are in the developmental stage in India. This is the list of the vaccines which are available and in different phases of the trial. But the most important principle which I will be talking about is that what are the different techniques to develop a vaccine. Now there are three main approaches to making a vaccine. In the first figure towards the left, this is actually, so in the first figure on the left is an intact COVID-19 virus. It's a schematic representation. To the outside, these are the spike proteins. This is the covering of the virus, and this is the genetic material. Okay, so either we can make a vaccine using a whole virus or the bacteria. And this is in general about the vaccine production. But if you talk about COVID, yes, this is the coronavirus, and we can use a whole virus, or in the second figure here, you see, I'll request if you can just mute your mics, please.
Guys, kindly be mature. He's delivering such an informative lecture, so I request you not to do this childish things out there.
Thank you. Yeah. So in the second picture, you can see that some certain vaccines will be using only the protein subunits which are present here on the periphery. You can see these spike proteins. And the third type of vaccines are the ones which are using the genetic material. So this is the genetic material, just the genetic material is being used. Now how? So if you talk about, so I'll keep referring to this picture in the subsequent discussion. So what is a virus vaccine? Now, if you talk about the Covaxin, which is being used very frequently at different vaccination centers. So the first figure, this is a whole virus. So this is technology has been used by Covaxin. The weakened or inactivated virus is introduced in the body. Now, when the weakened antigen or the inactivated virus is introduced in the body, an immune response is generated to the antigen without the virus causing the disease. So whenever the immune system in future comes in contact with the virus, the specialized memory cells will take note of the virus or the antigen, and they will keep it in their memory that yes, this virus was once we encountered this virus, and whenever in future the person actually gets the virus, then the antibodies and the T cells will attack the virus or the virus infected cells and they will destroy it. So this is a virus vaccine or the Covaxin which is being used. Then we come to the protein subunit vaccine. So this vaccine Novavax is now under production by the Serum Institute of India, and they will be using these protein subunit vaccines. So I'll again refer to this. So what are protein subunits? These are the spike proteins you can see on the outside of the virus. So these spike proteins, they will be taken in these protein subunit vaccines, and they will be triggering, as they trigger a weaker immune response, because naturally the whole virus is not there. So these vaccines are used with adjuvants. And what are adjuvants? These are substances which are added to the protein fragments to stimulate a stronger immune response. So all the vaccines which we have had in the childhood, like the diphtheria vaccine, the tetanus vaccine, the meningitis or the meningococcal vaccine, they've all been these protein subunit vaccines. So now we have seen both these vaccines, the intact virus vaccine and the protein subunit vaccine. Then we come to the viral vector vaccines. So the viral vector vaccines are the Covishield vaccine, which is being used in India, and the Sputnik vaccine, which is going to be shortly introduced. The another variant which utilizes the same technology are the mRNA vaccines. So the Pfizer and the Moderna, these are the mRNA vaccines. So these set of vaccines, they will not be introducing antigens to produce an immune response. And how do they work? They work by using the cells in a patient's body to produce the antigens. So I'll refer to this. So this is the way we are talking about this third figure here. This is the genetic material. We are making use of the genetic material in both the viral vector vaccine as well as in the mRNA vaccine. And these vaccines, they will work by using cells in our body to produce the antigens. Which antigen? This protein, the outer one. So instead of the protein being introduced from outside, our cells are actually going to be making these proteins, but not the entire virus. Our cells will just be producing part of these proteins. And in both the vaccines, the goal is to get a short fragment of the genetic code from the virus inserted into the patient's cell. Once the genetic code from the virus is inserted, this genetic code here, once it is inserted in the cell, then our cells will start producing the protein. So firstly, I'll talk about, like, now there are two vaccines in section 3, the viral vector vaccines and the mRNA vaccine. So I'm firstly talking about the viral vector vaccine. So what is a viral vector vaccine? The example is Covishield. So we insert the genetic code of the COVID virus into a harmless virus like the adenovirus. In this schematic representation, you can see that this is actually a adenovirus. Okay, and you can see here the genetic code. The genetic code is introduced into this virus, and this blue colored thing is being represented as a human cell. So the genetic code of the virus inserted inside a harmless adenovirus, and then it enters the cell. So the host cell produces proteins and not the whole virus, and a strong immune response is initiated, and there is no need for any adjuvants. Now, in the mRNA vaccines, which are the Pfizer vaccines, instead of using the virus like the adenovirus, in which we have seen here, the adenovirus is there is no adenovirus here. So instead of using a virus to deliver the genetic code, these vaccines insert the genetic code directly by attaching it either to a molecule, although the molecule is not seen here, either attaching it to a molecule which is incorporated in the cells, or by using a gene gun. So probably this pictorial representation is by incorporating genetic code through a gene gun, and this is how the genetic code is entering the cells. So I hope it's clear now. So if somebody asks you, you've got a Covishield, then that means that you've got it through an adenovirus. If somebody in the US has got Pfizer, it is through the virus using a gene gun or through a molecule. And the first one is the virus vaccine, which is a Covaxin. So I hope it is clear now. Now, which vaccines are licensed in India? So we all know that Covishield, Covaxin, they all have been licensed by the Central Drug Control Organization. And Covishield is available, Covaxin is available, even Sputnik now has been granted an emergency use authorization. So what is an emergency use authorization? I'll just briefly go through it. So it's a regulatory mechanism to allow the use of vaccines and medicines to prevent and reduce the impact of life-threatening conditions caused by COVID-19. And naturally, safety is ensured and full licensure is naturally obtained when the manufacturers just submit the complete data. But because there is a pandemic, it's an emergency situation, so the emergency use authorization has been given. What are these clinical trials which you've all heard that? So briefly, I'll just explain that any vaccine, it goes through these 4 phases. First is the preclinical trial, where the vaccine development takes place in the lab. Then you have a phase 1 clinical trial where very small number of participants are involved, maybe 10, 20, 30. So it is done to assess the vaccine safety, that hope it is not causing any major allergic reactions, to gauge the immune response and to determine the right dosage, because only 20 or 30 people are involved. They are volunteers. And so we can do a clinical trial we start with the phase 1 clinical trial with small number of participants. Once the safety has been ensured in the phase 1 trials, then we enter the phase 2 trials, where a few hundred participants, they take part. And after the phase 2 clinical trials are over, we enter the phase 3 clinical trials. And the duration of these phase clinical 3 trials, it lasts for a duration of 1 to 2 years. However, in this case, the duration was naturally shorter because of the pandemic. Now, this is a very important thing, which the next slide, which I'm sharing, is that after completion of the phase 3 clinical trials by AstraZeneca company. Now, AstraZeneca company, as you all are aware, that our Covishield vaccine and AstraZeneca vaccine are actually the same. The AstraZeneca company, which is they have given permission to the Serum Institute of India to manufacture the AstraZeneca vaccine under the brand name of Covishield. So once the AstraZeneca phase 3 clinical trials were available last year, it was there were very good figures and some revelations were made. The primary analysis of the phase 3 clinical trials from the UK, Brazil, and South Africa, they were published as a preprint in Lancet, and it confirmed that as far as the safety and efficacy of the vaccine is concerned, that there were no cases, no severe cases, and no hospitalization more than 22 days after the first dose. So the protection against COVID-19, it started merely 22 days after the first dose. This is very important. And the vaccine efficacy was approximately 76% after a first dose. And with an inter-dose interval of 12 weeks or more, the vaccine efficacy increased. So now we've heard recently that the vaccine dose interval has been raised. So there were a lot of questions asked, but this was already been proved by the clinical trials. With an interdose interval of 12 weeks or more, the efficacy increased to 82%. So once the government increased the gap based on these clinical trials only between the two doses. And the analysis also showed potential for the vaccine to reduce asymptomatic transmission of the virus. So there was no asymptomatic transmission also. Now, this clinical trial, it involved about 17,000 volunteers last year. And the most important thing which I'm going to tell you is that the COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccine in this clinical trials, they found that it conferred 100% protection against severe disease, hospitalization, and death. So imagine a biopharmaceutical company stating that it will protect you 100% against death if you are fully vaccinated, then it means something. So we have to pass on this message that it will 100% protect you against severe disease, hospitalization, and death. Although we have heard in the past few months that some unfortunate patients have died even after being vaccinated. But if we actually look closely, then possibly they were either having some comorbidities or severe comorbidities. And the percentage of people who were actually fully vaccinated and still died is very, very minuscule. So in the clinical trials, they did not find any death. So this was most important, that the vaccine, it conferred 100% protection against severe disease. Then I'll just briefly come to some frequently asked question that why vaccinations are not provided to children. So well, the general practice is that we evaluate any new vaccine in an older age group, and then we start doing the age reduction. And as we all are aware that currently the clinical trials are underway in children also. I've already explained this, that is Covishield, the same vaccine as the vaccine being given in the UK by AstraZeneca. So yes, and it is a Swedish biopharmaceutical company. with its headquarters in Cambridge, England. But interestingly, AstraZeneca did not collaborate with the Cambridge University, but they collaborated with the Oxford University and developed this vaccine. As we know about the dose schedule, so the time interval between the two doses has now been extended from 4 to 8 weeks to about 12 to 16 weeks. As far as Covaxin is concerned, it can be taken 4 to 6 weeks after the first dose. Many people ask that, is it mandatory to take the second dose? So vaccination for COVID-19 is voluntary. However, it is advisable to receive the complete schedule of COVID-19 vaccine for protecting oneself against the disease. And most importantly, now we come to that, why do I need a vaccine certificate? So a vaccine certificate is issued by the government, and it offers an assurance to the beneficiary on the type of vaccine used, and the provisional certificate provides the date on which the next vaccination is due. Now, importantly, in future, it may become a requirement for certain kind of even social interactions. If you're going for a concert, or you're going for a clinical meet, or if you're going for your college, you never know that in future a vaccine certificate may become mandatory. And as you all are aware that now it is for international travel also, these vaccine certificates are have become mandatory. So it is better that from our side, it's better that in future we are ready and laced with these vaccine certificates. So if you meet as students, if you can coax and you can convince some of the people from the socially backward and the downtrodden people, then you can, just by going through these next few slides, I'll just finish quickly, that what should we expect before vaccination. So which vaccine is better? So we have to say that naturally there is no head-to-head comparison. So it is, whichever vaccine is available at the vaccination center, they can get themselves vaccinated. Any medications to be avoided? None. Is vaccine is contraindicated in persons with chronic disease? No. In fact, patients with chronic disease are all the more required to take the vaccine shot. Now, this is a very frequently asked question, that when to take COVID-19 vaccine after recovery. Those who have been infected by COVID-19 can take their vaccine 3 months after recovery. Say, for example, if they've taken the first shot, and then they can take their second shot after 3 months. If they've not been vaccinated at all, then also 3 months. What to expect after vaccination? Do I need to wear a mask? Yes, it is absolutely necessary to continue following the COVID-19 appropriate behaviors. How long will I remain protected after vaccination? So as it's still an emerging disease, longevity of the immune system in vaccinated individuals is yet to be determined. And it is important that we follow COVID-19 protocols. Then a frequently asked question is that, does vaccination protect me against newer strains of mutated virus of SARS-CoV-2? So, well, the body responds to vaccination by more than one type of antibodies to virus parts, as we have seen that the body responds not just to the spike protein, but available. So all vaccines are expected to provide some reasonable amount of protection against mutated virus also. And based on the data, the mutations are unlikely to make the vaccine ineffective. So even if we get the disease after being fully vaccinated, the intensity of the disease will be mild. And in how many days will the vaccination create an adequate immune response? So the adequate immune response will take about 2 to 3 weeks after completion of the entire vaccination schedule. That is after the second dose of either the Covishield or the Covaxin or whichever vaccine we take. Then a frequently asked question is, should you avoid alcohol after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine? There is no evidence that it impairs the effectiveness of the vaccine. Then what are the precautions some may ask you to take after receiving the vaccine? So the vaccines are pretty safe and there are no precautions as such. Just COVID appropriate behavior, that's all. Now, does this vaccine provide a herd immunity? So naturally, when an increasing number of people get vaccinated in the community, indirect protection through herd immunity automatically develops. For example, in measles, we needed 95% of the people to be vaccinated. So no, the proportion varies, but it is advisable that everybody gets vaccinated. Now the question is, I have received my first dose, but I've tested positive. So I've already explained in the previous slide. So the new guidelines say that it should be deferred by 3 months. So take your second dose after 3 months from recovery. Can pregnant women get vaccinated? Yes. Pregnant women are now eligible for COVID-19 vaccination. And does a COVID-19 hospitalized patient for another separate treatment also defer vaccination? So yes, it is about the waiting period for such people who, for non-COVID disease, they've been hospitalized is about 4 to 8 weeks. And what is the fourth category of individuals who have to defer vaccination? So people who have taken these convalescent plasmas or monoclonal antibodies, anti-SARS-2 monoclonal antibodies or convalescent plasma, their vaccination has also to be deferred by 3 months. So this is my brief information about the COVID-19, and it's a very emerging topic and it's a very huge topic. So I've just briefly taken the vaccine part in more details, and I'll just request you all to stay safe and always remember to use the COVID appropriate behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative and engaging session. And definitely, like all of us can remember that passport thing that you told us. You added to epidemic and it becomes pandemic. And rest of the, I guess, the visuals were very engaging and it made stuff more clear. Thank you so much, sir. So next up, we have Mr. Anil Gulati. He's a communication specialist at UNICEF, United Nations Children Fund, India. He has more than 20 years of diverse experience and has played a crucial role in development and implementation of approaches in the area of communication, which brought in results for children, particularly by using media, civil society networks, and engaging with decision makers at political leadership and corporate level for bringing in change for children. He holds a great understanding of issues related to children and women. Sir, it is a true honor to have someone of your stature and influence amongst us. I would like you to address the audience.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuti, for a very nice introduction. Thank you very much. My earnest thanks to Dr. Puneet Tandon. He did a very fine, great presentation. In fact, very informative, covered a lot, which I had to say. Thank you, Dr. Tandon. In fact, it's because of Dr. Tandon that I'm a part of this meeting today. So I kind of owe everything to him. Thank you, Mr. Prince, for getting in. Registrar, sir, thank you very much for your kind introduction. I have 4 slides, actually. I just wanted to share. Can I share that?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Okay, I'll go and, I handle communication for UNICEF and kind of work in area of communication. Technical aspect Dr. Puneet Tandon has already covered, and I kind of agree with him. He's also spoke about COVID appropriate behavior, which I will shortly touch. I only want to say that you are not alone. Actually, we all are together to fight together. And, as communication, as work with state government is doing, all UNICEF and WHO or people like Dr. Tandon are doing, is to change a narrative of fear to fight, that we can and we will be able to fight. For students, since I'm talking to students, I just wanted to take you to a few stages of how does communication change. And that's my experience with COVID and all, measles, rubella, or any kind of vaccination program, or any kind of a change program which we want to get into. Whenever we start public communication, public communication means talking to people at large. The first step is, I know I should kind of, people will start getting the knowledge. After that, it is a desire that I want to do it. Then it is skills, after, even if I desire, what are the skills I have? Can I do it or can't I do it? So I can do it. That means I can go in for vaccination. is it really worthwhile? That's a stage when people start talking to Dr. Tandon or technical people. Oh, really? Is it worthwhile? After that, it is easy. When you believe that it is worthwhile, it's easy. Then you say, I'm joining in. And then you need to be kind of appreciated that well done. The reason I'm telling you these 5 steps is because of my next slide, is that if you really want to bring a change in COVID communication, what needs to be done, what should be done? You're all students, young people. You need to talk about COVID appropriate behavior. With Dr. Tandon had talked, there are basically 3 major COVID appropriate behaviors which need to be followed on, whether vaccination done or post-vaccination also. One is say yes to mask. Face mask is essential. Second is hand washing with soap or sanitizer. I still say hand washing with soap more than 20 seconds. There are 6 steps of hand washing. One can learn that. But hand wash with soap frequently when you come from outside, before taking food, after going to using sanitation facilities or whatever possible, wherever you feel that you've touched any kind of surface which might be infected, just go for hand washing with soap. And physical distancing. Right now we have unlocked today. A lot of people are in the market. Physical distancing is a challenge. As young people, we need to create that thing to happen. As young people, we can talk about information that we need both COVID vaccination, which Dr. Tandon was talking about, and SMS. What is this SMS? SMS is not the SMS which you use in your mobile. This is a different SMS. SMS means basically S stands for sanitization or hand wash, N stands for mask, and S stands for social distancing. The reason we are saying is that you need to take vaccines whenever your age appropriate time comes in, and then go in for SMS. That means you need to abide by COVID appropriate behavior. Then is, we need to engage with a lot of faith-based leaders, people who are in industry, people who are in banks, chemists, celebrity associations, who can kind of convey the message to people that it's important to use masks, it's important to hand wash, and important to physical distancing. If you see experiences which is happening in other countries also, where cases came down, the cases are slightly going up. The reason is people have started mingling with each other. Then you need to identify positive deviants. I'll talk about positive deviants in my next slide, what that means for students. Then you have to repeat messages in new ways. What is happening is the moment any message come on radio or TV, a COVID vaccine laga lo, ya face mask laga lo, people get bored. People feel, "Arey, ye to suna hua hai." So we need to create, as young people, you can do that. And you can be a warrior for us, a COVID warrior, fighting the war against COVID by kind of propagating this message, taking vaccine and talking positively about it. There's a word I talked in my presentation was positive deviance. What that means? You can see one fish is jumping to another ball. Positive deviance is basically a premise that any community, organization, or a team like VIT also, there are some individuals who suffer with same challenges in your studies also. They have same kind of resources, but they outperform the others. This is there because they have a unique way of working. And this also happens in communities today. People who came first to taking vaccine, like Dr. Tandon took vaccine very early. He was a positive deviant. In fact, Dr. Tandon actually had COVID after, but he still fought it back. So he's a positive deviance model. Instead of imposing solution, if we can kind of highlight these positive deviants within university, within communities, it can help. So that's the reason I say identify and recognize these positive deviants within your university, within communities, and as young people, we can try and identify them easily. What as young people we should be doing? What is our role? What can we do as COVID? I do understand government is doing something. There are medical hospitals doing something. Organizations like us and UNICEF, WHO, they are doing something. But you also have a very critical role in this fight. One is don't spread unverified information. The WHO has called this pandemic as infodemic. Dr. Tandon talked about pandemic, I'm talking of infodemic. Infodemic because we're getting huge amount of information, many times unverified. And, there are a lot of messages come on COVID, which are either created or created by people who want to disseminate unverified. So please don't spread unverified information. Talk about stories of change, positivity and positive deviance, which I was talking about. Do your video messaging on use of mask, probably double mask. Right now, I'm talking of double mask. I think so Registrar Sir is wearing a double mask. So let's talk about double mask, hand washing, social distancing. Recognize positive deviance over young people. Have encouragement sessions with young people. Motivate your friends to talk about positively about vaccination. Do a photo campaigns. If you're doing a double mask, you use Instagram, you use Twitter, Facebook. Put your photo campaigns of double mask. Respond to myths and rumors on social media. Don't contribute to it. You know, in this case of infodemic, our major role is to kind of promote COVID appropriate behavior. Even when your institution is opening up, let's open up with COVID appropriate behavior. There are guidelines which have been issued by Government of India on opening up of any workplaces or places of educational institutions. Let's kind of follow that, have an appropriate protocols in place. I do understand when we go out for party, when we go out for meeting friends, we feel kuch nahi hota, chalo mask utar lo. Please don't remove your mask. It is one of your fighting tool in your hands. And wash your hands with soap as often as you can, and do maintain physical distances. Vaccination, my last line will be, it is not either or. It is both together. Vaccination plus COVID appropriate behavior. You can't fight COVID if you don't do two together. That's all I wanted to say. I'll take up questions. We are already at 11:23, so I would like to close and stop here.
Thank you so much, sir, for your session. I mean, the contributions that as we as individuals can make to the society are really important, and you emphasized upon that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for the session. And now we'll be moving for Q&A session. Guys, you can type in your questions to our distinguished speakers while maintaining the decorum of the conference. Guys, do we have any questions on the floor? Sir, I believe there are no questions on the floor since the chat box seems empty. Since both the sessions were like quite descriptive. Like we have we have a hand raised, but I request you to kindly type in the question and only then we'll allow you to unmute yourself.
There is a question in the chat box, like, what if two vaccines are mixed up?
Any of the speakers would like to answer that?
Punit sir?
Do we have so with us?
I'll just check. Punit sir? Yeah, he's still there. Just a minute. Maybe I'll call sir.
Okay, till then, I have a question from our speakers. So, like, what are the challenges, like, most common myths that you face, especially on like social media or Puneet sir in your like office and hospital premises, which you think is really stupid, but it is like really common out there. Like, almost everyone has this misconception.
Okay. Shruti, please unmute Punit sir.
So I have unmuted him already. I guess.
No, still unmuted.
I'll just do it.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes.
So there was a query about mixing of vaccines, firstly. So as far as mixing of vaccines is concerned, so this has been tried in few of the European countries, like in Germany and France, and they have come up. They have not disclosed their results. The initial results are encouraging, but it has not been practiced as of now in our country. So have to stick with the guidelines of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of our country. And at present, they are not recommending the mixing of vaccines. But you never know that what will happen in future. But till the time it happens, we have to stick with the same vaccine.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Chandan actually.
Sir, are nasal vaccine are as effective as the conventional vaccines?
As far as nasal vaccines are concerned, they are all in the development stage, and their results of the phase 3 clinical trials are not out to the best of my knowledge. So we will be able to, but if once the vaccines are out, then they should be effective. I'm sure they won't be effective, but till the time they are actually out, we really can't comment on that.
Hello.
Stuti, you'd asked a question about various myths and rumors. You know, one of the challenges we are facing right now is in many rural areas, because there's a major myth that COVID is like a typhoid. You know, there are symptoms which are similar to that. Dr. Tandon can further clarify, but COVID, we are requesting everybody to go in for COVID appropriate testing process. Second is, a lot of people are not taking vaccine because they believe कि शायद कुछ टीका लगाने से या कुछ खाने से ठीक हो जाएगा. But realization is that vaccine is the only key answer right now, and it is the safest way to kind of protect yourself. What happens, that's the reason I'm saying, is that if we, like in tribal areas, what we are doing is we are trying to work with tribal leaders who are coming forward and taking vaccine and motivating others to take vaccine. जैसे झाबुआ में tribal leaders are known as Tadvis also. We are trying, collector is trying to work with them. One of the challenges we had was in Bethul, where again we are getting in work with tribal leaders. Other is some places people do come out with various presumptions that, and that's the reason people like me and Dr. Tandon always says vaccine is the safest and the key answer for it. But what has happened is right now, in fact, in Madhya Pradesh, we have crossed more than 20 lakh vaccination doses have already been done. Same as in India, we are progressing at a very, very fast pace. And today also there's a special campaign on Covishield second dose vaccine is happening today in Bhopal and Madhya Pradesh. So people are adapting to vaccine. It happens like in every immunization or any health program, it takes time for people to understand. But once they are on board, it moves very fast. And hopefully by end of the year, we have progressed quite a bit. That's all.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering. Yes.
Sir, for example, in European Union, there is the same vaccine is delivered in India also as per the name Covishield, but in European Union they have allowed the vaccination for that for that AstraZeneca vaccine. They have allowed it, but they have not allowed the vaccine which is sold in India as Covishield. Why, sir? When the formula of both the vaccines are same.
Dr. Tandon, would you? I think so. There was a clarification the clarification by Aadhar Poonawalla has already been given, and I think so. Government is working on it. I think so. Dr. Tandon, would you like to add?
No, that's fine. Thank you. Anything else?
Do we have any other questions on the floor? Seeing none, we shall proceed with the vote of thanks. So I'd request the Assistant Director Operations, Prince Sir, to extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the distinguished speakers.
Thank you. Thank you, Suti. I propose a vote of thanks for the webinar on our shield in COVID times.
So just a second, give me a minute.
Is it
Yes,
okay?
sir. I think, yeah, sir. I think you can go. Thank you.
So for the webinar, our shield in COVID times, first and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Puneet Tandon, sir, pathology specialist, Gandhi Medical College and Amity Hospital, Bhopal, and Mr. Anil Gulati, sir, communication specialist, UNICEF, United Nations Children Fund, who is representing India, who have delivered the talk. In spite of the busy schedule, both of them have come, and it was a brief talk. It was a detailed talk. Definitely our faculty and students, staff have benefited by your talk. I would also like to thank the management, our respected Vice Chancellor, sir, our Registrar, sir, directors, deans, then faculty, staff from Bhopal as well as from Chennai office. They were a part of this. We would like to thank the management for their encouragement and support. I would also like to thank Suti, who was hosting the session. Thank you, one and all. Have a great day. So thank you, sir. Punit, sir. Anil, sir. Thank you so much. Ma, please unmute them. Yeah, Anil, sir, and Punit, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Suti.
So I think the session has been really great in terms of both the information and the motivation, like as we engineers should have for contributing in the society. So I think a lot of engineers out there, they can develop like more stuff, as Sir said about that, will curb the misinformation about the COVID. And since Puneet sir gave a lot of information, we can use that information to develop various models and applications out there.
Ma,
So
please unmute Punit, sir, and Anil, sir. Ma. Maybe they are facing some issue.
so
Thank you. I've got it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Prince.
Thank
Thanks
you,
a
sir.
lot. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
Dr. Prince.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dr. Tandon.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank
Have
you,
a
Anil,
great day,
sir.
sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir.
Thank you, Suti.
thank you, sir.
Thank
I
you.
think we shall be ending the meeting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Hello, bhai. Sir, please stop the recording.